So what we're looking at here is Hamlet Act I Scene 3, Polonius and his two kids. Polonius, you'll recall, is he's an advisor to the king. He's very like the Lord Chamberlain of the Danish court, which would be the chief of staff of the president. Okay, so he's high up in charge of getting things done. It's not his decisions about what things happen, but he gets the king's job done for him. Now he has two children, but we never meet their mother, his wife. We never hear about her. We never see her in the play at all. And she would have been there. There's a handful of fairly important things that happen to their family, deaths and such, but she never appears. So we assume that she's dead from that. We don't know how or why, but she's not around anymore. Now, this scene begins not with Polonius, but with the two kids together. Okay? Laertes is the son. This is the son who is going back to France. Ophelia is the daughter. We saw her in the video that we've been watching. You saw her in that scene, but she didn't say anything in the palace room where Claudius gave his speech and then Hamlet had his soliloquy. You saw her, but she didn't say anything. Now, what's going on is Laertes is leaving town, and he wants to chat with his little sister before he goes. And he wants to give her some advice, some wise advice about her boyfriend, or the person that she thinks is her boyfriend. It is specifically Laertes' advice that she not consider Hamlet her boyfriend. Okay, so starting here, he says, regarding Hamlet, okay, and the trifling of his favor, the appearance of him being nice to you, right? He's paying attention to you. Regarding that, you should hold it a fashion. You should think of it as only a toy in blood, of a violet in the youth of primy nature. This is not real what Hamlet is doing. He's just being a young boy, and he's interested in a girl. Don't take him seriously. This will last for a minute, no more. And she says, you really think that's so? You really, she's sort of disappointed. You really think that's true? He says, you should think it no more. Don't think anything more of it than that, because, and his explanation of why is sort of important for us to catch. He does not say Hamlet is a jerk. Hamlet is fooling around and doesn't care about you. He says Hamlet is not in charge of his own life. He couldn't care about you if he wanted to. What he says is things are going to change. Okay? He points out that Hamlet, he says things are going to change. Things grow. Things they change as time goes on. And perhaps Hamlet loves you now, but that won't last. That can't last. Hamlet is going to be the king of Denmark. He's got important things that he has to worry about, and he needs to marry appropriately for the king of Denmark. Okay? What he says here is maybe he loves you now, and he has no bad intentions. His virtue, he's thinking virtuously. He loves you. He's not just trying to fool around. But his greatness means that he can't do what unvalued people do. You, little sister, you're unvalued. You're basically a servant, sort of like your dad, like me if I'm here. Okay, we're nobodies. Hamlet's not a nobody. On his choice, the safety and health of the whole state depend. Okay? When he decides to marry, it has to be for the good of Denmark. Okay? So, if he's saying he loves you, just remember it's only as far as he can love you now. And it is not likely that you will be included, that you're going to end up being the queen. You know, that's going to go to someone who is important. Okay. Now that makes Hamlet, it doesn't give Hamlet a lot of credit for being a nice guy because he's going to do what he has to do for the state. That's what Laertes is saying. But it doesn't make him nasty. He's not saying that he's just taking advantage of you. Okay? That's important because someone later on here will think that. Okay? But but Laertes doesn't. As a matter of fact, what Laertes says is along with this, the fact that he won't really be allowed to marry someone like you or to love someone like you. You have to weigh what loss your honor may sustain if you are too close to him. Let's assume that he is not going to marry you. You might lose your heart to him or your chaste treasure, which is your virginity. You might give him everything he wants, and he has no reason to not take it because he's the king, and he will be the king, and he can move on. But you, on the other hand, you you won't really be able to move on. You know, your honor is going to be tainted by however you interact with Hamlet. He'll walk away from anything that goes wrong in your relationship. You won't. You're going to get damaged. So he's actually being sort of kind and warning to his sister. He's trying to protect her honor and her heart, right? Once he's said this, she she believes that he's got her best interests in mind. She doesn't doubt him at all. She says, however, um, she says, "I'll keep the effect of this lesson. I'll take your advice, okay? But you know, don't you go and do all the kinds of stuff that you're telling me not to do. Don't make me show me how to go the steep and thorny way to heaven. You know, not do anything naughty, and then you yourself, fool around and have all the fun. You know." And Laertes says, "Oh no, I'm a good boy. I'll do the right thing too." So she's sort of, she's not like mocking him, a little bit of teasing. You know, it's friendly brother and sisterly teasing. They're not, um, she's not telling him he's a liar, right? She's just saying, "Oh, well, sure, it's okay for me to be good, but you're going to go live in France and fool around." She says, "No, I'm not going to do that. I'm not." So that having, once they get done with with his bit of advice for her, in walks Dad, Polonius. Now, the way Laertes reacts to Polonius walking in sort of indicates that he thinks his dad's a bit of a dope as well. Okay, he's not incredibly interested in his dad's advice. He says, "I stay too long. I didn't make it out. Okay, well, here's Dad." So we already said goodbye once, but he's going to give me a double blessing. He's going to say goodbye again, and it'll be a double grace. I'll be fine with that. But dang it, I thought I'd get out of here. Okay, so you get that sort of um, uh, what a dorky dad impression as well. Yeah. Now, when Polonius does come in, we aren't going to go into great depth about his advice because his advice to his son is sort of goofy. It's not really useful. Okay, for example, he says, okay, so Laertes, you're still here. The wind is waiting on your sail and you've got to go. So get moving. But these few precepts in thy memory. Look thou character, okay? Hang on to these bits of advice. And I'll run through a couple of them. Give thy thoughts no tongue, and nor no unproportioned thought his act. Don't talk without thinking, and don't act without thinking. Okay? So, all right. That's okay. Be familiar, but don't be vulgar. Have friends, but don't have bad friends. Don't be too friendly. Okay. All right. There's a point at which he says, give every man thy ear, but few thy voice. Listen to everybody, but don't talk much. Costly thy habit as thy purse can buy, but rich, not gaudy. Wear fancy clothes, only as fancy as you can afford. Don't get too gaudy because you want to look. The apparel proclaims the man. You want to look dignified and wealthy, but you don't want to look rich and gaudy. So, it's just sort of babbling kind of advice. It's not something we really even have to worry about. In fact, in the end, he says, don't borrow or lend money because that's the way you lose friends. And then to your own self be true, and that way you can't be false to anyone. Well, it's not exactly true. If you're taking care of your own interests, you can lie to other people. But, okay, Laertes says, yes, thanks, Dad, and I'm going to head out. And Polonius says, yep, you better go. Go, gone. And Laertes says, okay, see you, Ophelia, and remember what I told you. Mm-hmm. And then he disappears. And Polonius says, so what did he tell you? What is it that your brother is instructing you on? And Ophelia says it's something about Hamlet. Now, this is where things go into an entirely different mood. Okay, up to this point, we heard Laertes being sort of the loving brother. Polonius, this is his daughter he's talking to and about at this point. I want you to keep that in mind. This is his daughter. We don't know his wife. We don't know her mother. But this is his little girl, right? She's like a teenage girl. And Ophelia says, well, he was telling me, he had some advice to me about Hamlet. And Polonius says, yeah, that's good. You need some advice about Hamlet. I have been told that of late you have given private time, or he's given private time to you, Hamlet has. And you have taken this private time with him. Okay? And I don't think that's necessarily a good idea. As a matter of fact, the way he puts it is, I must tell you, you don't understand yourself so clearly as it behooves my daughter and your honor. You are spending so much time alone with him that your honor is going to be damaged. And since you're my daughter, my honor is going to be damaged. Selfish. He is concerned about his honor. It's actually more his honor than hers that he cares about, because her honor is going to reflect on him. He goes on. He says, so what has been happening between you two? Give me the truth. Ophelia says, well, he's made many tenders of his affection to me lately. He's been kind and given me little hints that he likes me, right? Affection, ha. You speak like a little girl. You sound like a little stupid baby. What kind of a dip are you? Okay? That's the way he's talking to his daughter. Okay? And it's worth really noticing. He says, you speak like a green girl, okay? You speak like someone who is inexperienced. Right, Dad? She is. She's your daughter. She's a kid. And That is, it's dangerous, the kind of things you're messing with, and you're making me look bad. Hmm. Well, I mean, that's very selfish for a father. Okay. He says, "Do you believe his tenders, his sort of hints at love?" And she says, "Well, I don't know what I should think now, right?" And that's true. She, you're confusing Dad. Well, this is what Dad says, and here's where his comments to his daughter don't just go mean. They aren't just sort of annoyed and angry. They get insulting. He says, "Let me tell you, you think yourself a baby that you've taken these tenders for true pay. You're as stupid as a little kid if you think these tenders are true pay. Tender is what you pay with, like legal tender, like money. And so when when she phrases it, she says that he gives her tenders of his affection. Dad is saying, "Oh, so he's paying you for this? What are you, some kind of cheap?" Mm, yeah, he doesn't call her a whore, but that's what he's implying. Okay, so he's giving you stuff, and you're doing whatever you want in the private time you give him. That's really what he's asking here. He even says, "Tender yourself more dearly." Dear means expensive. So if she's not dear, she is cheap. He calls his daughter basically a cheap whore. And he says, "If you are that cheap, you are tendering me a fool." Okay? Tendering me a fool in this case means making me look like a fool. It's a figure of speech. And so again, he's got the payment there. He's using this pun, but it's not about her. It's about him. "You're being so cheap, you're making me look bad, young lady. So you got to stop that." And she says, "Well, he's being sincere and honest. He's not being. He seems to be telling the truth. Like he really likes me." And again, he says, fashion. That's what it is. He's speaking to me in an honorable fashion. Fashion is how you cover up. That's what you look like on the outside. Okay? And he says, "Yeah, it's a fashion. That's all it is. He's just lying to you. He's talking to you to get what he wants." Now, go to means, uh, you know, stop it. Okay? Just move on. Okay? Ophelia says, he acts like he's got all the holy vows of heaven. He treats me honorably, like as if he's going to, give me the vows of heaven, like matrimony, like he's going to marry me. And he says, "You are such an idiot. That is a springe. It's a trap for woodcocks, little birds. That is the way guys get you. He wants you in bed. Okay? He is just trying to get in your pants or get in your dress, right? He says, "I know when the blood burns how prodigal the soul lends the tongue vows." I know the way people talk, the way guys talk when they want to get with a girl. He says these blazes give more light than heat. He's talking like as if he's being sincere, but it's not fire. It's just smoke. He's lying. Okay. From this time on, you must not hang out with him anymore. Okay. Set your entreatments at a higher rate than a command to parley. Don't just go and talk with him if he says, "Come and talk with me." Do not. He does. He does also say this thing which Laertes commented on. He does say Lord Hamlet believes so much in him, believe this about him, that he's young, but that he has a larger tether to walk with than may be given to you. Larger tether. His leash is longer than yours. He can do what he wants. You can't. He has the power to do what he wants because of who he is. You, once again, are not that important. Now, at this point, he's already insulted her and called her, implied horrible things about her. So when he gets to this point where he says, he's above you, Hamlet is above you, it just feels mean. When Laertes said it, he was saying it so that she doesn't get hurt, right? Laertes and Polonius have completely different attitudes about Ophelia. Polonius goes on, he says, I would not, in plain terms, from this time forth, have you so slander any moment of leisure with Hamlet. Stop seeing Hamlet. Look to it, I charge you. Straighten out your act. And she says, okay, I'll do what you say. Now, in this scene, we have had, we see that there is another love interest in Hamlet's life. And this is a complicating factor because we know how he feels about love. Love is so ideal. When he considers his father and his mother, right, and how they were supposed to love each other, that's his model. And now we hear that Ophelia has been in part an aim of his affection. I wonder where that's going to go. If he is that distorted about his belief in the love between his father and mother, how will that make a difference here? We'll have to pay attention.